Okay, welcome to Ditch Your Diet Food Rules Are Bullshit with Megan from Slim Nutrition Coaching. So, first of all, I want to say thank you for coming to the training today, where we're going to be going through some food myths. So, we'll do a brief introduction. We're going to talk about some of the food rules that I've heard about, that my clients ask me about, and that I think we should get to the bottom of because they're not serving any of us. And then we'll do a quick little wrap up at the end. So, first, this is me. I'm Megan Spencer. I have a science degree in nutrition. I am almost done my MBA. That's been quite the slog. And I am a self proclaimed diet culture dropout. So, I hope that if you're listening to this and you don't resonate with that last piece, that I can help you get there, be part of your journey, because from having done some diets and tried different things, I am much happier to be on this side of the adventure. It's freeing, it's liberating. I think that everybody uh, will be really happy to get to a place of being a diet culture dropout. So I hope that you'll join me. Okay, so what are food rules and where do they fit on this scale? So I know that there's a lot of information out there when it comes to food, nutrition, health, and some of it comes from really legitimate sources. Doesn't mean that they are going to be right for you. It doesn't mean they're going to be right for everybody. But there are a lot of professionals out there who have said some not very legitimate things around food and rules and restrictions that aren't serving any of us. So I hope that through today's training, I can help you get from wherever you are on the scale to somewhere over here, which is where I think that most of food rules belong. Okay, so we're going to cover three myths today. The first one is I can't eat after 7 p.m., or the concept of not being able to eat later on in the day. The next one is you need to eat more protein. I know this one's pretty popular in the kind of fitness realm, so we'll talk about that a bit. And then at the end, we're going to do a big one, which is, X kind of signifies any food is bad and how that can be problematic. All right. So, first one here is don't eat late at night. And I mean, I know this one's really hard for a lot of us because we're busy in the day. Even myself, last night I had dinner really late, and that is just how it worked out. It's not something that I strive towards, um, because there could have potentially been some legitimacy in where this one started. Some people do feel digestive discomfort if you eat right before bed, kind of the moving straight into a horizontal position can be challenging for digestion sometimes. Actually, being standing helps the process. But one of the things that I struggle with this rule is there's a specific time, like 7 p.m. What if I stay up really late, or what if I work until 7 p.m.? How am I supposed to be able to have dinner? So, and then what if I'm hungry? What if I eat something and it's not enough, and then I feel hungry after? So, big problem with this rule is that it overtakes our intuition. So, we are all born with intuition, and it helps us know when we're hungry, when we're full, these kinds of things. For the most part, we've been trained our whole lives to ignore that intuition. And I think this rule really feeds into that, oh no, once it's 7 o'clock, you got to stop. Um, it doesn't help us listen to our bodies. It doesn't help us practice our intuitive eating. And it's pretty arbitrary. I mean, really, everybody's lifestyle is so different. What if you stay up really late? You're a total night owl and you don't wake up till later. Or, if you eat at 7 o'clock and then you like to go for a walk around the block after. I think there are definite ways that this can still be part of a healthy lifestyle and should absolutely not be a food rule. Okay, moving on to the next one. Oh, sorry. Before we move on to the next one, I want to talk just briefly about intuitive eating and what it is. So, intuitive eating is a self care eating framework which integrates instinct, emotion, and rational thought. This was created by two dietitians all the way back in 1995. So, how does this translate into kind of everyday communication? So, it really means that intuitive eating is truly listening to your body, eating when you're getting hungry, stopping when you're getting full, um, and honoring your hunger. So intuitive eating in itself could be an entire course, but I know I mentioned it with the 7 o'clock rule, and I just feel like the 7 o'clock rule is getting us away from our intuitive eating, which is really where all my programs go, and what I think to be true kind of healthy eating and lifestyle. Okay, so on to our next rule. You need more protein. So I know this happens a lot in with exercise industry. The belief, follow your macros, and you kind of want to be under a certain number of calories. So you just jack up the protein, and if it's too much, then it's fine because you're not going to absorb it. Your body's not going to absorb it. Okay, so got a few things I want to touch on here. Do you really need more? And the truth is, probably not. Almost all people in kind of North America, developed countries, are getting more than enough protein. There is a formula to determine how much protein you should be getting, and that is less than 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. So this isn't pounds. I know some people get that mixed up. You're looking at your kilograms, which is 2.2 pounds, is how many grams of protein that you should get. And it's even less than that. So I know sometimes people want to have more than 1 gram, and that can be recommended in certain situations, like if you are pregnant or lactating or a very professional athlete. And when I say athlete, I don't mean that you exercise, because exercise is great and body movement is great. But this is for people who are like, that's their full time job. And so they may need a different amount of protein. And even then, it's only a slight increase. So, for the most part, we don't need more protein. Does it make sense to increase that amount in our diet just because? Probably not. And then the other concern here is that it creates a hierarchy. Like all of a sudden, protein is a good food. Your proteins are your good foods, and carbs and fat, that's bad. So this can be problematic because we have different needs at different times, and kind of considering an entire food group with one category of good or bad can lead to malnutrition and not getting enough of our other nutrients like vitamins and minerals that go along with those. So, in general, we really want to avoid having foods either be good or bad. They're food. We can like them. We don't have to like them. But it doesn't necessarily make them good or bad. And then next one I want to show here is the breakdown of macronutrients that we should be consuming as adults. The formatting turned out a little bit weird, but the overall message that I want to share is that as adults and children too, we need a variety of foods. So we need all of the macronutrients, so fat, protein, and carbohydrates. And you can see, doesn't necessarily mean we should have more protein than the other macronutrients. So the protein and fat are pretty similar, and then carbohydrates are about double. And this is a calculated based on the calorie number. So the grams of fat will be less than the other items, but the calories will end up being about the same as protein. Okay. And then our last but definitely not least food rule that we absolutely want to avoid forever and never talk about this again is that X is a bad food. And I say X because there are so many foods that have been put in this category that have been vilified, and a lot of it is for no good reason, okay? Like poison is probably a bad food. Don't eat that. But if we're talking about coffee, if we're talking about carbs, if we're talking about donuts, like pizza, all these foods that get picked on. But they're, again, we don't want to have foods that are either good or foods that are bad. Foods are food. We need it to live. It's part of our cultural background, it's part of our social experience. Food is a lot of things, but it is not good and it is not bad. Um, and I know it's hard because people really want to say that foods are good. And it's kind of like a backhanded way of saying that other foods are not good. So trying to just avoid those two descriptors when it comes to food. And then the next one here is this is creating restrictions that lead to cravings and overeating. So if you've ever felt like you can't eat something, it tends to be the only thing you can think about. And then you really want to eat it. And sometimes when we ignore those cues for the cravings, for the hunger, for the emotional connection with that food, we end up overindulging. And then again, that leads us to not following our intuitive eating because you're eating sometimes too much, right? You lose control. You end up feeling way too full and kind of gross after. And again, not really a healthy place that we want to be with those restrictions. And then the last one here is that it disempowers people, right? You've arbitrarily followed this rule, so then you don't get to make your own choices. I want to choose if I'm going to have this food or not. And whether somebody else thinks it's good or bad doesn't contribute. So that's kind of where we sit with these ones. And really, I'm working all the time to get these sayings to go away. But really, what you need to do is focus on what you can control. So I didn't want to just come here and talk at you. I've got this slide in here to talk about action plans. So what can you do? Because we can only control ourselves. And so this is a strategy that I like to use when you pick something that you're going to stop, you pick something that you're going to keep, and you pick something that you're going to start. So, for example, you might stop calling a food bad and you're going to keep listening to your body and following your intuition. And then you're going to start um, maybe you're going to start being more gentle with yourself when it comes to your previous experience with diets and rules and restrictions. So, this is going to be individual. Feel free to take a screenshot of this and think about it later. And next, I want to tell you about my group coaching program. So, Ditching Diets group coaching program is for you if you are struggling to give up diets, if you can identify with being a busy woman, if you are done with the diet bullshit, if you're not too sure where to start. That's where I really come in. And you also want to be a good role model. So, like I said, we can't control everybody else, but we can control ourselves and we can control how much power we are going to give other people's comments, right? So a lot of it comes down to feeling empowered in our own decisions and knowing that what we're doing is right for ourselves and sticking to it. How are we going to do that? Over 6 weeks, we're going to have weekly coaching. There's going to be weekly Q&A. That's with me, and then group accountability from the other members in the group. There's also a meal plan or healthy recipes, depending on how you want to look at that. And we're going to cover topics like mindfulness, intuitive eating, and healthy habits. We are starting in May and we will be done before kids are out of school at the end of June. Okay, so I have 5 spots left, and the way to apply is online. So if you're looking for the link, it's in my bio on Instagram, and it was also in the Eventbrite event details for today. And you can just message me if you're looking for that. And last but not least, I want to thank you very much for coming, paying attention, listening, and I want to open the floor for any questions.